Reassuring faces. One. Ten.
Civil War.
Hello everyone, for once it is not my boyfriend. It is me, the Feral Cat Wrangler, that will be doing today's episode, as he is currently recovering from a hangover. So today we are going to be covering Gen Alpha, everybody's favorite generation, and the one that can't stay out of the news apparently, more so than the baby boomers. So we're going to be discussing today, this is mostly an opinion piece, we are mostly going to be discussing Gen Alpha, the reason why they're possibly failing, and some of my own thoughts through here. I have a whole bunch of articles in front of me, so we're just going to take this a step at a time. So first off, we have Gen Alpha failing school. Very fun indeed. So we are going to, if I can figure out how to, whatever. I was going to try to screen share, but I don't know how to do that. And it's my first time doing a stream on my own, so bear with me. Okay, well, we have multiple articles here. I have one in front of me from The Charger, Oxford High School. This is an article that was released on February 5th of 2024. I will be right back. I need to get his help for something. Hon, I need your help. How do I screen here? Trying to figure out how to screen share because I've never done a live stream.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have no viewers.
Right there. That button
This one?
to the left of it.
This one?
Click that one. Click share screen. Click again.
And then just the same to get out of it?
Yeah, click whichever tab you have and then click share.
All right.
And don't forget your tea here.
Thank you. I really did. Though I am drinking tea, I will not be spilling the tea. This is not a drama channel. So The Charger, as you can see, February 5th of 2024, states that Generation Alpha is the youngest generation composed of children and preteens born between the years of 2010 and 2025. Recently, the internet has been filled with posts claiming that Gen Alpha is struggling in school. This is what I wanted to get at. In the summer of 2023, the United States released a report on how the country's 13-year-olds were doing the subjects of math and reading. The results weren't exactly stellar. Grades were at their lowest in decades. Researchers suspect that this is because of technology that Gen Alpha has grown up with. It could also be due to events such as the lockdowns, the global pandemic that affected the generation that is young and impressionable. That's something I will not be covering in this video because that's a whole can of worms that goes into quote conspiracy theory territory very quick. And we're just sticking to this one topic, so this will probably be a fairly short stream, at max an hour, depending on how fast I can go through this. So this teacher states, our mission is to utilize the tools we feel are needed to provide students the best opportunity to leave our school, district, college, career, and life ready, Robertson says. That often means utilizing technology to improve instruction, but sometimes it doesn't. In recent generations, such as millennials or Gen Z, there has been an increase in individuals' anxiety, ADHD, and depression, and it is likely this trend will continue. Research has begun showing that this Gen Alpha is already showing signs of these mental health disorders more. Now, this is where I'm getting into the opinion piece. And this ties into another topic that I will cover here momentarily about that was supposed to be further down the line, but we'll cover it now. And that is Gen Alpha's constant reliance on social media and technology in general is a massive problem. And it goes on to, Robertson goes on to state, technology has also impacted the social interaction skill sets of young people. Another, and let's see, Gen Alpha students do not seem to have the attention span as previous generations, which makes teaching and learning difficult. Gen Alpha is unlike anything the world has ever seen. The young kids and the ones to be born are growing up around technology in a way that not even Gen Z experienced. They are having troubles caused by the events that have shaped their generation, such as quarantine and use of social media, which has led to many disorders and issues that can distract them from learning. Generation Alpha has unlimited knowledge at its fingertips, Robertson said. They have an opportunity to change the world as problem solvers. And this is where we get into the issue of, in this article, stating that they are having troubles caused by the events that shape their generation, such as quarantine, the use of social media, which has led to many disorders and issues that can distract them from learning. Okay, the one thing I want to bring up here is quarantine and use of social media right here. The other issue that I'm going to bring up here momentarily is also the school system. The school system in and of itself has, ever since we had the No Child Left Behind Act or policy that George W. Bush Jr., I believe is who brought it into place, feel free to correct me, brought into existence. Now there was you couldn't hold back kids if they failed a grade, and they're just passing them on. And this goes into the next topic that we have here. I'm going to screen share. Is we are going to go into the literacy rate dropping. The literacy rate, yes, everybody, is plummeting. And there are multiple factors for this. But we are going to go over another article that I have pulled up. I did do some research here. There was another one that I was trying to find about literacy rates, because the article I'm about to pull up has a website that they cite for some of the information, and I did try to find this information, but I had a very difficult time. Here we go. Is reading dying? Discussing the Gen Alpha literacy crisis. Now, this was published by Kimberly, This Writer Reacts, on March 25th of 2026. So we're just going to go over this. Now, I'm going to exclude a lot of the rambling that the author makes. I want to focus more on some of the facts here, even though this is primarily an opinion piece. Most of the commentary, and the teacher goes over, not teacher, the author of the article goes over that teacher testimonials, headlines, teachers leaving en masse, which is true, that you can find a lot of videos on YouTube and most any social media about teachers being completely fed up with Gen Alpha. And so the author brings up kids can't read, kids can't think themselves anymore, kids have no attention spans. So we are going to ignore most of this aside from the Gen Alpha literacy crisis isn't just about falling grades or dropping standardized test scores. It's about how an entire generation is losing the ability, stamina, and desire to read novels that can shape their lives, which that is true. I imagine most anybody watching this stream has a book or some kind of media, a video game, but primarily a book. We're going to go with a book here that you absolutely love. You know, you've read it hundreds of times, and every time you really enjoy it. It seems as though this generation of kids, just because they don't know how to read and have seemingly no critical thinking skills whatsoever, they can't enjoy that. So this is where we get some of the facts. And this is what I tried to pull up, was the nation's report card of 2024. The author states 40% of fourth graders, 33% of eighth graders, and 32% of high school seniors were reading below the basic reading level. And each year, these percentages get higher. Phonics, often called the science of reading, the break it down and sound it out system, has been dropped by classrooms in favor of what's called the whole language method, but it also goes by balanced literacy, which uses a 3-cueing model that had students learn words by their context and pictures. Phonics recognizes that children need to be taught to read through decoding, while whole language leans on the idea that children will intuitively learn. And thankfully, because that is a terrible, awful idea, whole language is now being phased out, and phonics is making a comeback. However, it says, but it's too late for those children who learned reading using whole language for decades. I was born in 1996, and even then, when I was in kindergarten and elementary school, we used the phonics system. I grew up learning how to write in cursive, and a lot of these Gen Alpha kids don't know how to read or write in cursive. Novels have been removed from most schools' curriculums, replaced by short excerpts to learn from. That's never a good sign. This is underscored by the National Council of Teachers of English, which in its position statement on media education and English language arts wrote, "The time has come to decenter book reading and essay writing as the pinnacles of English language and arts education." Now we're going to go and pop on over to this article here in a moment. So, okay, so this is the website that the previous article linked to. This article is dated to April 9th of 2022. The literacy is expanding. All right, we're going to see how much BS this thing has. It'd be nice if I had a little BS-o-meter next to me to read this. Literacy is expanding, and English language arts ELA educators at all levels must help learners develop the knowledge, skills, and competencies needed for life in an increasingly digital and mediated world. Media education is defined as the study of media with the aim of cultivating people's media literacy competencies. Lee 2010. Okay, so they actually are citing it like college essays. For people of all ages, media function as a public pedagogy due their influential role in, quote, organizing, shaping, and disseminating information, ideas, and values, end quote, by Kellner and Chair, 2007, page 3. To address inequalities in digital technologies and competencies, continuing curricular innovation in the ELA curriculum at all levels of K-12 education is needed. In this position statement, we articulate 3 core themes that make media education fundamental to teaching and learning in ELA education. Okay, let's go over it. What do they say? Exploring representation and power through critical reading, listening, and viewing. Educators value the use of teaching and learning practices that help to identify and disrupt the inequalities of contemporary life, including structural racism, people, sexism, consumerism, economic injustice. And that's all I need to know. That gives me everything I need to know. This is an opinion piece primarily. I'm throwing in some facts from articles and everything, but I hate this term of structural racism, inequality, and all this. Yes, it is. If you look at from what I last checked, though, a lot of these studies are paid and bought for by politicians. Is they want to keep perpetuating this idea that inequality, that, yes, predominantly, when you look at Black neighborhoods, they are mostly poverty-stricken. Look at Northwest Indiana. But economic, I just despise this wording because it's like putting the blame on not the failures of the teachers and the parents. It's placing the failure squarely on whatever they can shake a stick at. It's, like it says here, racism, sexism, consumerism, economic injustice. Bad parenting and awful teachers come in all shapes and sizes. It also doesn't help that the public school system in and of itself, when it was created, was meant to create factory workers. The standardized structural school system, that's why the reason it is the way it is, and it just minimizes critical thinking, is because it was built that way. Feel free to correct me. Critical pedagogies help learners see themselves as empowered change agents, able to imagine and build a better, more just world. Okay, so you want little social justice warriors running around. Okay, I think I've read enough of this. Wow, they absolutely, okay. Also, I'm going to bring this up right here, everybody. I want everybody to take a look at this. This layout is horrendous. I don't know if it's this way just on a laptop, but first off, this border here, the text of NCTE and Teacher of English is the same color on a white background with National Council cutting it off and then membership and events overlapping these letters and everything else. This is just a normal laptop. Like, I don't have the dimensions and everything wonky. It just looks like that. Wow. You guys couldn't even hire somebody to make this look nice, to buy me over to your cause. Wow. I am not going to really bother reading the rest of this because this is definitely, again, they lost me at this sentence here. Is structural racism, sexism, consumerism, economic injustice, and then going to say critical pedagogies help learners see themselves as empowered change agents, able to imagine and build a better, more just world. I feel like half of this is just word salad. Okay, well, I think I'm starting to understand. All right. Well, I should say I'm also not, this was something else I wanted to bring up. I do not have a banner for it because this is an opinion piece. Teachers, if you look on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, any of these websites, you will, or heck, pull up a news article, you will routinely see that you see more and more teachers pushing an agenda. They're not teaching. They want everybody to address them like by their pronouns. They want everybody to they want to push this liberal agenda. Okay, I'm just going to say like it is, opinion piece. They're wanting to push this liberal agenda. And with a generation that is failing basically everything, that's not helping. We need teachers that aren't pushing agendas, that are wanting to teach. And the bad news is the teachers that do that are sick and tired of Gen Alpha. They're sick and tired of these kids and gentle parenting. And gentle parenting is the newest, greatest thing. Basically, let your kids walk all over you and just be a doormat for them. Now, I'm just summing it up. Obviously, if you're parenting, I don't have kids yet. We're working on that. But a balance between discipline and, you just need to find a balance of discipline mostly. You need a balance. And Gen Alpha has no balance. Whether that's because their parents are just, well, look at the baby boomers. Look at the baby boomers. And then you have their kids. And then you have millennials, and then Gen Z, and then Gen Alpha. And you start seeing a trend. And I'm going to very roughly carry this into the next topic, which is what is known as the reverse Flynn effect. Now, essentially what the Flynn effect is I'm going to summarize it, is every generation precedes the next, is there is usually an uptick in IQ because technology evolves. We get all this thing, we get industrialization and everything, more education, and so on and so forth. However, Gen Alpha, and by also Gen Z, I'm going to pull up the next article. And which one? I've got so many articles pulled up in front of me. Where is it? I did have it. Ah, here we are. Okay, got that article. Share screen. Okay, so this is an article on the reverse Flynn effect by Cal Newport. This was published on September 8th of 2025. So a Norwegian psychology professor named Lars Deli was, I'm probably butchering that, was asked to give a lecture on intelligence. And I'm going to skip a little bit past this. As he explained in an essay about the experience, he decided to start the lecture by discussing the so-called Flynn effect, the well-known phenomenon first observed by James Flynn, whereby measured IQ scores have been steadily increasing since World War II. It's always fun to tell students that their generation is the smartest people who have ever lived, end quote, Deli wrote. But as he gathered data to build an up-to-date chart, he was surprised by what he discovered that the IQ has actually started to fall, end quote. And right here, you can see the chart. Now, unfortunately, I cannot zoom in to make this a little clearer, but there is a key right here. There is no consensus on the cause of the reverse Flynn effect. I've got a few ideas. But in a recent podcast appearance, James Marriott, a critic and columnist for the Times of London, oh, lovely, summarized a hypothesis that has been gaining traction. As we switch our information consumption from print to digital devices, our ability to think deeply degrades. As Marriott explains, end quote, print requires us to make a logical case for a subject. The really significant feature of books is that if you make a case in print, you have to make it logically add up. You can't just assert things the way you can on TikTok or on YouTube. Print privileges a whole way of thinking and a whole way of processing the world that is logical, that is more rational, that is more dense information, that is more intellectually challenging. If you lose these things in our culture, which I think we really are in the process of losing them, it's not surprising that people are getting stupider and that we seem to find that IQ is declining. End quote. The data on the reverse Flynn effect includes several pieces of evidence that support Marriott's claims. The IQ reversal, for example, seems to begin right around 2010, the point at which smartphones began their rapid ascent to ubiquity. In addition, according to the Northwestern study, the demographic suffering the steepest declines is 18 to 22-year-olds who also happen to be the heaviest users of smartphones. As with most psychological findings, unlikely we will ever fully attribute this effect to a single specific cause. That's true. There's a whole bunch of I don't want to say possibilities because it's multiple factors. Obviously, smartphones and the new age of technology being at your fingertips, it doesn't require a whole bunch of critical thinking. I mean, why bother trying to memorize something when you can just pull it up on your smartphone instantly like that? And it's that line of thinking that has made Gen Alpha, I personally feel, so, lack of a better word, stupid. Not to say that there aren't some Gen Alpha who were raised right, who aren't complete and total morons, But right now, Gen Alpha is, in the next 15 to 25 years, the whole world's going to look like Idiocracy, which props to anybody who's watched that movie. Go and watch it if you haven't already. You're basically looking at the future. It's a grown but back to the article. It's a grown standard to say things like, my phone is making me so dumb, but this is often intended to be a figure of speech. A self-deprecating shorthand for the reality of the things we do on our phone are dumb, or that we spend less time doing smart activities than we used to. These technological interpretations of the reverse Flynn effect hold up, and might turn out this quip is way more literal than we had originally assumed. So, and then that's the end of the article. Obviously, you have the comment section, which I'm not really going to look at. This was one of the only recent articles that I could find that was somewhat decent, because it popped up on the Brave search web browser. And stream. And there's other factors as well as to why Gen Alpha is so dumb. We've already gone over them failing school. We've gone over the reverse Flynn effect. I think it's time that we go into the two other factors, two other things about Gen Alpha. And the next one I'm going to cover, seeing as we just went over technology, is this. Is AI and social media to blame for all of this? And the answer, in my opinion, it's a little more complicated than that. Because you have parents enabling their kids with this whole gentle parenting technique. Gentle parenting, from what I understand, doesn't work. Go on YouTube, go on TikTok, go on any social media, and you'll see why it doesn't work. Because as a parent, you're not your kid's best friend. But that doesn't mean you have to be the worst enemy. No, you are a parent. You are an authority figure. You are a disciplinarian when it needs to be. You do not let your kid run all over you. And these parents, which are predominantly either millennial or Gen Z, they don't want to parent. It's simple as that. They'd rather throw an iPad or something at their kid to keep them distracted while they do the dishes, while they mop, while they sweep, while they do their taxes, while they go out to dinner. And at first, it doesn't seem like much. You know, you throw the iPad at the kid, you throw the phone at the kid, and it's like, okay, 15 minutes later, you know, you're waiting. Or, okay, but you keep doing this. And these bright, flashing colors, all this sensory overload gets a dopamine rush. And what starts out as something small, well, now your kid's screaming at the top of their lungs because you took their iPad away because it's time to do their homework. So we are going to, with that small tirade out of the way, we are going to go over the AI and social media having an effect on this. Now I have a few articles pulled up, so I'm going to pull up the first one, which is from the for some reason these are out of order. Okay, this is from the Emory Wheel, from dated Saturday, May 23rd of 2026. So this is a very recent article. This was published today. So this is as new and fresh as I can get it. Now, this is also an opinion piece. However, they should include a couple of facts. Now, this original article was written on November 20th of 2024. So we're just going to go through this. The bars on the floor. An elementary school teacher prefaced in a TikTok on key skills children need to know to be successful in 5th grade. Students must know how to write their names. A handful of his students were unable to properly spell their own names when they first entered his classroom. This is 5th grade. 5th grade. That is insane. A fifth graders unable to spell their own freaking names. Oh my gosh. A multitude of fed-up elementary and middle school teachers has taken up social media by storm, expressing concern after concern. Gen Alpha, which includes children born from 2010 to present, is underperforming and misbehaving in school at an unprecedented level, and a majority of teachers have reported the misbehavior and morale have gotten worse after the COVID-19 pandemic. So they also bring up that the digital era perpetuated by online schooling and lack of socialization. Now, this is definitely a factor in why Gen Alpha is just a bunch of morons. Because depending on their age, how old they were when the pandemic started, if they were fairly young, like first to third grade, the pandemic lasted from 2020 until like 22, 23, I believe, was when kids started going back to school. But regardless, you still lose 2 to 3 years of physical social interaction. Being in a classroom, raising your hand, actually going to the whiteboard and writing down equations, writing down a sentence, and actively participating in a classroom with other people instead of being about 7 inches away from a computer screen and pressing a button to raise your hand. You know, everybody was living in panic. Nobody wanted to go outside. Everybody was afraid of getting COVID. And that level of fear and that level of just control is what I'm going to call it, because there's really no other way to word it. Yeah, it was a pandemic. But these are impressionable kids, and they didn't get the chance to actually be kids. And now we go from the online classroom to thrusting them back into a physical classroom, missing 3 years of physical interaction with other people. They're going to be fucked. There is no other way to word it. They are going to be fucked. Because that whole time, the only social interaction they have had is on a computer screen. And then also during the pandemic, you had a massive spike of people using TikTok, Instagram, all these other social media sites, YouTube. You know, everybody was taking to social media by storm because it was the only way to keep in touch. And yeah, it definitely is a factor, a large one. But it also, like I've mentioned several times now, is parenting. But back to the article. Americans must break free from the pandemic trance and act fast, implement appropriate technology guidelines, ensuring the younger generation, other generations to come, have a chance to succeed in the classroom in the future. While many continue to solely blame COVID-19 for these failings, the education system must acknowledge the pandemic intensified rather than created Gen Alpha struggles. Okay, that I will kind of agree with. Well, the must acknowledge the pandemic intensified rather than created Gen Alpha struggles. Okay, and here we get into some of the facts. This is from 2022. In 2022, only, but I mean, this is an opinion piece, so they don't link. Okay, they do link something. I'm curious to see where this goes. Okay, NAP report card readings. Okay, so they didn't just pull that out of their butt. Okay, so we have, for grade 4, as of 2022, 33% of 4th graders at or above NAEP proficient in reading, lower compared to 2019. So 33% of 4th grade students performed at or above the NAEP proficient level, which the NAP proficient, this level represents solid academic performance for each NAEP assessment. Students reaching this level have demonstrated competency over challenging subject matter, including subject matter knowledge, application of such knowledge to real-world situations, and analytical skills appropriate to subject matter. But level on the reading assessment in 2022, this percentage was a 2 percentage points lower compared to 2019, but was 5 percentage points higher in comparison to 1992, the first reading assessment year. And then it goes to say that 63% of fourth grade students performed at or above the NAEP basic level in 2022. Now, what I want to know, if there is a way to actually show it physically, is where this 33% of fourth grade students performed at or above, which is, compared lower to 2019. I am very curious to see what demographic. Not just to like prove a point. I'm just genuinely curious what the demographic is for these Gen Alpha that are failing so miserably. I did try to use this website. I'm glad it linked it because I do have this website further down, and I was actively trying to look up data just like that of, okay, what was the location and the demographic of the students that are failing so poorly, or can we like connect a few dots here possibly? But I couldn't pull it up, and it might be because I did this on such short notice, but it's also likely possible I might have to pay to do it for like as an educator. So they do have a graph here. Okay, they at least have a graph of the year percentage at or above. Okay, so yes, 1992 was 29, and then 2022 is 33. Okay, and then we've got 2019 is 35. Well, would you kind of, okay, I was going to say, if you look at that, we spike. But if you will notice, I do believe right around, somewhere around here, again, I don't have all the most recent presidencies memorized, aside from Obama forward, because I was a kid when the Bush administration was around. So, and I don't think I was even born when Bill Clinton was in office. So I didn't really start paying attention to politics till high school. So I don't know when let me look that up. When did the No Child Left Behind Act first come to being? Okay, so, okay, No Child Left Behind Act and overview. Okay, it was in 2001. 2001 is when it first came into being. Okay, and so we see 31, 31, 31 from the year 2002 all the way to 2005. We see an increase in 2007, 2009, and we keep going up here, right? We go all up and up till we get to 37 in 2017, and then we start tanking down again in 2019 at 35, and in 2022, 33. This is still horrendous. Yeah, this is still just awful. All right, and then we have grade 8. 31% of eighth graders at or above NAP proficient in reading, lower compared to 2019. So the last one we looked at was in grade 4. Now we're looking at grade 8. So let's take a look at, they also have a table. Now, hold on. We got NAP proficient. Also, we have 31, which is lower than grade 4, which is 33. Now, let's go with NAP basic. Okay, at or above NAP basic. Okay. All right. I do see that we get a spike for proficient in basic in grade 4 and grade 8. It looks like between the years of 2009 to 2017, they were steadily going up in between NAP basic and NAP proficient. Okay, no, it's just NAP basic. Still curious. And then lastly, we have grade 12. As of 2019, no significant change in percentage of 12th graders at or above NAP proficient compared to 2015. So this is proficient. Okay, yeah, there isn't much difference at all. All right. Now back to where we were. I gotta do all this. Okay, so back to this. At or above proficiency in reading, the result follows a continued decline in proficiency rates since its peak in 2017, which, when we went over the data just now, we do see that that was at its highest. Gen Alpha is currently undergoing a crucial stage of their cognitive and social development. If their educational performance does not improve, there will be significant setbacks for future societal progress. Okay, now what I want to get to, because we are getting into like another topic I had, which is the literacy rate dropping. But I suppose that these two topics are kind of like intertwined with each other. So I could have just summed it up into one, but I didn't. So, it is what it is. I did this completely on the fly. All right, but let us continue, no matter. Kick something. Okay, so where are we? Okay, is undergoing a crucial stage of cognitive social development. If their educational performance does not improve, there'll be significant setbacks for future societal progress, i.e., we're going to be living in idiocracy. Children will struggle to keep up with more difficult learning concepts as years go on. An entire generation risks falling behind the complex world that preceding generations built. The root of the issue is clear. Gen Alpha's overuse of technology puts their fundamental educational development at stake. Okay, and now we're getting into how these two are connected. While the increased difficulties in educating Gen Alpha have resulted in teacher job satisfaction rates plummeting and more teachers leaving the profession than ever before. While many institutional reasons factor into this result, there is no doubt the negative shift in student behavior contributes to this issue. Increased screen times has made Gen Alpha more susceptible to behavioral issues. We already read this. I think this is exactly cut and paste from somebody else. Interesting. But, all right, well, let's see where this leads to. Oh. Okay, well, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, JAMA Psychiatry. Okay, this is a little interesting. Wasn't expecting that. Association of screen time with internalizing and externalizing behavioral problems in children 12 years or younger, systemic review, and meta-analysis. I'm not going to go over this whole thing because we'll be here all day. However, if anybody wants to read the article in full, again, the article I had links it. So, what is it? The question here is there an association between screen time and children's internalizing and externalizing behavioral problems in the extant screen time literature? And the findings they found was in this systematic review and meta-analysis of 87 studies, including 98 independent samples, including 159,425 children 12 or younger. Okay, that's a really decent sample size. Okay. Greater duration of screen time was weakly but significantly correlated with externalizing, e.g., aggression, inattention, and internalizing, anxiety, depression, behavioral problems. Results varied as a function of demographic, e.g., sex, and methodological factors, e.g., informant and measurement method. Meaning, the findings showed weak but significant correlations between screen time and children's behavior problems, and suggests that methodological variability may have contributed to mixed findings in the literature. Abstract. Importance. Currently, there is a lack of consensus in the literature on the association between screen time, e.g., television, video games, and children's behavioral problems. Okay, we're going to get a little further in this because I want to know how long they conducted this for. Like, if it was several years. Because what I would have loved to have seen is if they did this for like 10 years or more. All right, objective. To assess the association between the duration of screen time and externalizing and internalizing behavioral problems among children 12 years or younger. Data sources. For this systematic review and meta-analysis, Medline, Embase, and PsycInfo databases were searched for articles published from January of 1960 to May of 2021. Reference lists were manually searched for additional studies. The study selection included studies that measured screen time duration, and externalizing or internalizing behavior problems in children at 12 years or younger were observational or experimental with baseline data, were available in English, and has data that could be transformed into an effect size. Studies conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic were excluded. The 25,196 non-duplicate articles identified and screened for inclusion, 595 met the selection criteria. Data extraction and synthesis. Okay, so this actually sums up. I'm so used to like reading psychiatry stuff like this for like medications and the effects they have on people and everything, and there's just a whole bunch of numbers. So I was expecting to completely dismiss it. But no, this is actually more straightforward than the ones I'm typically used to reading. Because I'm not exactly the best with numbers. Data extraction and synthesis. The study followed the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis PRISMA reporting guideline. Extracted variables were child age, sex, and socioeconomic status. Informant and measurement type for screen time and behavioral problems, study publication year, and study design and quality. Data were extracted by 2 independent coders and were pooled using a random effects model. The main outcomes and measures. The primary outcome was the association of screen time duration with externalizing aggression, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder symptoms, also known as ADHD, and internalizing depression, anxiety, and behaviors or diagnoses. Results. Of the 595 full-text articles assessed for eligibility, 87 studies met all inclusion criteria, comprising 98 independent samples and 159,425 participants. Mean SD age 6.07 to 2.89 years. 83,249. I'm sorry, I'm having to squint because of how small the text is and how far away it is. 51.30% male. Increased duration of screen time had a small but significant correlation with more externalizing problems. 90 samples. This is where we get the numbers. R 0.11 semicolon 95% CL 0.10 to 0.12 in internalizing problems, 43 samples. R 0.07 95% CL 0.05 to 0.08 in children. If anybody knows what the frick that means, good for you, because I have no idea. Several methodological moderators explain between study heterogeneity. There was evidence of significant between study heterogeneity. I can't tell if that is an L, a J, or what. I'm going to go with L, I think. L squared equals 87.80. Conclusions and relevance. The systematic review and meta-analysis found small but significant correlations between screen time and children's behavior problems. Methodological differences across studies likely contributed to the mixed findings in the literature. So, and then this just goes to the rest of this, aside from this introduction, I don't know if I'll go over that, but the rest of this is like the methods they used, the study inclusion and exclusion criteria, the data extraction, data synthesis, statistical analysis, and results. And then you have the flow diagram, which there is a way to download. And then they have study characteristics, screen time, and externalizing behavioral problems, which we have yet another graph that looks like a bunch of Morse code. Because, again, I don't do number crunching. And then we got several more graphs. But I think we got the main baseline here. I don't think I need to read over all of that. But y'all get the picture. Is yes, there is a correlation, essentially. But it's minimal. Right. Here we go. Back to where we were. Okay, now where was I left off after on that tirade? Okay, Gen Alpha has an increased screen time has made Gen Alpha more susceptible to behavioral issues and symptoms of ADHD, depression, and anxiety, which inevitably manifest in classrooms, disrupting the learning environment. As a result, Gen Alpha has an increasingly difficult time focusing, resulting in educational delays, If this pattern continues, schools will be left with a dwindling, unsatisfied teacher force and out of control student population. All right, so what are these delays, unless that's what I just went over? Healthychildren.org. Okay, so American Academy of Pediatrics. Okay, well, I already have a different article that I've got several other articles listed for media use and its effect on Gen Alpha that I will cover later. Okay, and they do list the benefits here. Risks and benefits of media used by children and teens. Digital media can expose users to new ideas and information, raise awareness of current events and issues, promote community participation, help students work with others on assignments and projects. In the end, the internet, social media, it's a tool. It is a tool, first and foremost, and a tool relies completely on how you use it. And Gen Alpha is using it like a crutch completely. You can look it up. There's tons of videos of like teachers making TikTok videos and stating that Gen Alpha relies on Chat GPT for effing everything. They have no critical thinking skills. They can't absorb information. Everything has to be done through a tablet, a phone screen, some kind of computer. If this pattern continues, schools will be left, already went over that. During the pandemic, apathy-inducing Zoom lessons. Apathy-inducing Zoom lessons. That's a decent way to word it. Back when I was in college, I had a few online classes that I had to take, and there was no option to take them in person. There just wasn't. This was before the pandemic. This is like 2018, I want to say. This is 2018, so about 2 years before everything kicked off. And I had two classes. I had my logic class, and I had my children's literature class. And the lack of learning I did on those online classes was almost remarkable, because I was also taking physical classes at the time. Like I said, these were two that were the only option I had was online, and I did very poorly in those classes. And I do have ADHD. And no, it's like, ooh, funny. No, I actually was diagnosed back in the 2000s with it. So it wasn't like the hip new thing at the time. And for me personally, it was very difficult to pay attention. Very difficult to pay attention in class. Just because I already had a computer screen in front of me, and I didn't have a notebook or anything, because when I was in college, I would take notes and I'd also doodle, which I think everybody does that. You get bored in a class, the teacher's droning on, and you just start doodling like little ninja figures, or, you start sketching SpongeBob, whatever it is. It's common for kids and I would say even college students and adults to doodle when they're bored. But all I could do was, or not all I could do, but you can always just click away from the Zoom call and play solitaire or something. It does not promote learning. Online classes don't promote learning whatsoever. It can't take the place of being in a physical classroom. So with that in mind, I'm curious to see what they bring up with like the lessons. Okay. Oh gosh. And they want me to, nope. I can't even read the article, everyone, because Forbes wants me to pay to read the article, as if they're not rich enough. Interests robbed them of an interactive and social learning environment during a critical learning period. Stuck at home and unable to interact with their peers, which I have gone over this earlier in this live stream about how that negatively affected them. Gen Alpha overly relied on the internet for fast, stimulating entertainment. Everybody did. It wasn't just Gen Alpha. Everybody did. Boomers, Gen X, millennials, Zoomers, everybody was indoors. Everybody was on their phones, watching TV, playing video games, doing something. Everybody had a freaking screen in front of them, unless like you were a Luddite or you just liked reading and you wanted to stay off the phone or whatever, in which case good for you. You have good discipline. But no, everybody was doing it. It wasn't just Gen Alpha. Although they're the one most susceptible that had, I want to say, the worst time of it. Because again, they still had to attend classes. They still had to attend school somehow. And the only way to do that was through Zoom meetings, which, well, I think almost everybody knows that Zoom doesn't have the best security due to all the data breaches they've had in the past. But that's kind of neither here nor there. Slower paced class. Once in-person instruction resumed, children were unprepared to pick up where they had left off. Slower paced classroom environments could not engage students as well as their beloved iPads, causing many students to struggle academically or frequently act out. And this is the iPad babies. Okay, Iris Center. I have no idea what this is, but they've got a purple iris, which this is actually the season where purple irises are blooming. So this is more, it looks like information about how teachers can help. Just glancing over this. Yeah, this is instructions for what a teacher or an educator can do should they have a pupil acting out. When I was a kid, he just kicked us out in the hallway or sent us to the principal's office, and then I got a phone call home. And you did not want them to call your parents. You did not want that at all. I come from a generation where we were terrified, fucking terrified. If we acted out in class and the teacher says, I'm going to call your mom, or go to the principal's office and the principal says, I'm calling your mom or I'm calling your dad, you just felt the blood run from your face and you just knew. Morgan Freeman voice. And that's when you knew he fucked up. You had that I fucked up bad, because you knew when you got home, if you were lucky, you were only getting grounded. If you were lucky, you might lose your PlayStation for 3 months. That's on the good end. On the bad end, you were getting that ass whooping. You were getting daddy's belt. No questions asked. You were in such deep shit if that happened. And now I'm going into another tirade. So soapbox time. Ta-da! Parents have been terrified of, and there is a line between abuse, like just constant abuse of your kid just because they dropped a coffee mug and it shattered on the floor, and disciplining them because they're acting out, because they are they're being a bully. They're not applying themselves in school. You can take away the PlayStation, you can take away the computer, you can take away everything and then just leave them with books and everything else, like how I was when growing up. You lost your technology privileges. You read a book, physical discipline. Parents are terrified of it because of CPS horror stories. And yes, there are parents that have no reason to be parents. My boyfriend, he comes from a generation, his parents, he got the ass whooping sometimes. And he is a functional member of society. I'm not saying we have to go back to the 1920s of absolutely browbeating the fuck out of your kids. I'm just saying we need to bring back discipline. You need to bring back the, oh shit, I fucked up. Like level of, when I'm coming home, I'm getting a coming to Jesus moment. I'm absolutely getting a coming to Jesus moment. Because these kids have no discipline. They have these parents that are do nothing but gentle parenting because they likely came from the generation of helicopter parenting. And helicopter parenting and gentle parenting are kind of one and the same. But this off the soapbox moment, back off the soapbox. But this goes over the challenging behavior. Students today possess a range of academic, behavioral, and social skills. Many students come to school ready to learn and possess the skills they need to support the learning. They make their needs known in constructive ways, manage frustration, interact smoothly with adults and peers alike. Other students, however, majority, and for a variety of reasons may lack these skills. These students often exhibit behaviors that interrupt, gosh, this text is freaking tiny. Interrupt instruction, have negative impact on the learning environment. These are commonly referred to as challenging or acting out behaviors. As illustrated in the table below, these behaviors can range from minor to more serious and are often characterized as inappropriate, aggressive, or even destructive. And so they also have some research here, left unaddressed. Low-level challenging behaviors such as being off task can escalate quickly from arguing to verbally aggressive behavior and even physical aggression toward property and others. Whether minor or more serious, challenging behaviors can have negative impacts, including lost instructional time, lower academic achievement for the disruptive student and classmates, lowered sense of belonging in a school, decreased student engagement and motivation, teacher stress and frustration, and teacher turnover rate. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I think everybody knows what I'm thinking. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. She looks like Sid the Sloth. I can't unsee it. I'm not trying to be a dick. I just see Sid the Sloth. I'm sorry. That caught me off guard. I was not expecting to see that. I'm sure she has a nice personality. But anyway, so back to the article before I absolutely start cracking up. I feel like a terrible person for that. Anyway. So, however, Gen Alpha's reliance on technology was present even before the pandemic swept the globe and certainly has not stopped even years after life returned to normalcy. This brings a rude awakening. Society cannot keep blaming COVID-19 for Gen Alpha's educational shortcomings. This is true. We cannot keep blaming. I think we read this app. I need to hit my microphone. I think we've gone over this, actually. Another article mentioned the same thing. When used appropriately, technology in the classroom is a helpful tool to provide engaging lessons to students who are already accustomed to screens in their everyday lives. Yes, like I said earlier, the internet is a tool. It is not meant to consume you utterly and completely. I'm not saying we got to return to the Luddite age with our kids. I'm just saying that that the parents of Gen Alpha have to enact and be firm, like actual discipline here, not like being a doormat. Set screen time. The only reason why that's so difficult, not the only, there's many reasons, but one of the main big reasons I think is that schools are more routinely pushing a very heavy technology and AI driven curriculum that requires students to use a device to do homework, to do tests. When I went back to when I was in college, back in NAM, when I was in college, it was very routine, particularly for my Latin class. Yes, I took Latin. I've had practically a decade's worth of studying in it, from middle school to high school and then to college. I haven't touched it in a long time, so I've probably forgotten all the skills. But our tests would always be online. Every time. There was never an in-person test. It was always having to be filled out online using this website. I forget the name of it. I think just about every college uses it now, but at IUPUI, which is where I went, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, which doesn't exist anymore. They split back, and I would think it was 22, 23, might have been, maybe 24. I have to look into it. But the Indiana University and the Purdue University parts of the campus split. So what was once one whole campus is now two campuses of two separate colleges. But anyway, so we had to take these tests online, and there was an issue with them because though it wasn't common, they were prone to, just because it's technology, prone to, screwing up. They were prone to issues that befall anything, website down for maintenance. I personally never experienced an inability to fill out a study sheet, which we did have those online as well. As we filled out the study guide or whatever, and then the test. I personally never had issues, but I know the teachers that were using that website likely had many issues with updates, coding, what have you. And I think it's about time we bring back all paper. And I kind of understand why we shifted away from it. It mostly came after, again, COVID-19. Everything shifted away from paper to preferring it to be a screen. One of my old professors, Dr. Linseth, he was a professor at IUPUI. He passed away in November of 2019. He would always, I won't say always, routinely, at least once a semester, he would, usually at the beginning, he would hand out studies indicating that people learn better if you write down the information versus type it, and the importance of print versus a screen. And I was taking his classes, and he taught several things. It was mostly like humanities, history, predominantly history. So between 2016 to 2019 is when I was on and off taking his various classes for various semesters, and he was a really chill guy. But he would always instruct us, and he despised computers in his classroom. He hated them. He did not want a laptop out for any reason in his classroom whatsoever. But he wouldn't kick you out. As far as I'm aware, he never just booted out a student for bringing a laptop. He just didn't think that they helped students learn. And that man was way ahead of his time in many things. But that's the rest of what about him doesn't fit this whole Gen Alpha. But I think he was really onto something with handing those out. Also, is it just me, or do schools just not use flashcards anymore? I know that for my Latin classes and everything else, we did have online flashcards, but when I was in high school, which was 2012, 2011, I think, to 2015, they made us use physical flashcards. I don't know, do schools not use physical flashcards anymore? Did they not do that? I mean, it's not bright, flashy colors like Cocomelon, but I mean, the fun thing was you could always use those multicolored gel pens that you could get, I think it was like a 10-pack over at the dollar store or something, or Hobby Lobby. They had all these little fun colors, and you could color code, and it was so much fun. Damn, I'm old. Okay, my eyes it's getting harder to see. Okay, to provide engaging lessons to students who are already accustomed to screens in their everyday lives. However, lessons on Chromebooks and smartboards reduce the time students spend on paper and pencil activities. In an era in which students struggle with writing their own names, increased hands-on learning is crucial to accustoming Gen Alpha to engagement outside of a touchscreen and developing fine motor skills that will set them up for success in their educational journey. Okay, now what is the hands-on learning they have here? Okay. Technology interactive media as tools in early childhood programs serve children from birth through age 8. Okay, I can't actually read this. I'm gonna have to like really blow it up just because to 300% because they made this in the tiniest fucking font possible for my blind ass eyes. And he already has the screen brightness all the way up, and I've got a lamp in the background that's just freaking blinding me. Okay, television was once the newest technology in our homes, and then came videos and computers. Today's children are growing up in a rapidly changing digital age that is far different from that of their parents and grandparents. A variety of technologies are all around us in our homes, offices, and schools. When used wisely, technology and media can support learning and relationships, enjoyable and engaging shared experiences that optimize the potential for children's learning and development, can support children's relationships both with adults and their peers. There we go. Let's see. This statement is intended primarily to provide guidance to those working in early childhood education programs serving children from birth through age 8. Although not developed as a guide for families in the selection and use of technology and interactive media in their homes, the information here may be helpful to inform such decisions. NAEYC and the Fred Rogers Center do not endorse or recommend software, hardware, curricula, or other materials. All right, let's just scroll through here and have a look-see, why don't we? Statement of the issues. Technology and interactive media are here to stay. Young children live in a world of interactive media. They are growing up at ease with digital services that are rapidly becoming the tools of the culture at home, at school, at work, and in the community. They list Carawalla and Crook, 2002, Calvert et al., 2005, National Institute for Literacy, 2008, Bucklettner, 2009, Lisenby, 2009, Burson and Burson, 2010, Cheong and Schuler, 2010, Koos and Chen, 2010, Rideout, Loricella, and Wartella, 2011. Wow. Okay, so this is well thought out. Technology tools for communication, collaboration, social networking, user-generated content have transformed mainstream culture. Particularly, these tools have transformed how parents and families manage their daily lives and seek out entertainment, how teachers use materials in the classrooms, young children, and communicate with parents, families, and how we deliver teacher education, professional development. Rideout, Bandwater and Wartella, 2003, Roberts and Forward, 2004, Rideout and Hamill, 2006, Rideout, 2007, Foundation for Excellence in Education, 2010, Gutnick et al., 2010, Barron et al., 2011, Jackson, 2011A, and 2011B, Wahi et al., 2011. There's conflicting evidence on the value of technology in children's development. No kid needs an iPad in front of them at the age of 2. I think it's really dumb. The 2-year-old doesn't even have a sense of self yet. They don't even know they exist. Like, when I say they don't know they exist, 2-year-olds and toddlers in general, they don't. I feel like I don't know how to word it, other than the fact that they're just starting to learn. I have a hard time trying to describe it, but yeah, the best way is they don't have a sense of like that self-awareness is something that comes with age, but they are just going through life. And I feel like I'm thinking to a post that I saw a few years ago. It's not even a post, it was a meme of like this kid standing in front of a couch holding a truck, and he's like, the moment of self-realization when I hit the age of 4 or something like that. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but 2-year-olds, toddlers don't need technology in front of them. They need to be read to, played with, play with them. If you want to show like bright colors, toys and everything, but not the phone screen. I don't know how much longer I can do this stream for, just because of how bright that lamp is in the background, and all these lights are giving me a fucking headache, and the blue light coming from the computer screen. So I'm just gonna try to wrap this up soon, and I'll likely end up doing a part 2 to this tomorrow after his live stream, or whenever he does it. Again, I'm just having a hard time reading. All right. Okay, the education system should delay heavy technology use in early elementary education until the majority of students are comfortable with writing simple sentences. Yeah, no shit. As for older Gen Alpha students who may be bringing their devices into the classroom, schools must introduce ways to reward them for shortened screen time and introduce other engaging activities such as outdoor learning. In light of increased concerns, 8 states have recently passed policies to restrict cell phone use in school. I do believe Indiana is one of them. Last I checked, our governor passed something about that, about not having phones in the classroom. And yeah, honestly, as somebody who is, quote, neurodivergent, I'm going to hear this says shorten screen time and do other engaging activities such as outdoor learning. Yes, the for people who are actually on the spectrum, and I'm not saying like self-diagnosed, I mean actual ADHD, autism, neurodivergent, so forth. It is so hard to sit in a classroom and sit still for 8 hours a day trying to focus on topics. Getting up, moving around, physical interaction, hands-on learning works better for some people than others. You know, some people learn really well by just watching, visually. Others learn through auditorily. Others, it has to be a combination of that and hands-on learning. So yeah, outdoor learning, if it's a really nice day, where it's not pouring rain, it's not freezing cold, nice spring, nice fall weather, yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, it's kind of distracting, but if you have a bunch of kids that need to get their energy, or students that need to get their energy out, I don't see why you can't be like, okay, I see everybody's fidgety. All right, it's a nice day. Let's go outside and go for a walk around the school grounds and let's get all this stuff out. Let's get this energy out. But I don't know how I feel about reward them for shortened screen time, because that kind of feels like, hey, here's a gold star. I mean, I'm sure there's a way you could probably Pavlovian train them into something. But that only extends so far to just the school. Because you'll have because as soon as they get back home, then all the hard work you put in as a teacher with the screen time limitations and everything goes out the window, because you're only a teacher. You're not their parent. You can only control what's in the classroom and on the school grounds. And that's got to be frustrating for a lot of teachers. All right. My eyes are aching. All right. What are the 8 states? A look at state efforts to ban cell phones in schools, implications for youth mental health. This was published September 5th, 2024. Note, Figure 1 was updated on April 30th, 2025 to reflect the recent passage of cell phone ban legislation in Arizona and New York. Oh, recommended from UNESCO. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Hold on. I'll be right back. I need to get my boyfriend to take a look at this. I want you to take a look at this. And I'm probably going to wrap up the stream soon just because my eyes are really starting to ache because of that lamp. Oh, look at this.
That's an old halogen bulb.
Look at this. The resurgence of cell phone bans follows the 2 advisories from the U.S. Surgeon General on the youth mental health crisis and the harmful impacts of social media use, and recommendations from UNESCO to limit cell phone use in schools across the world.
Huh. That's odd.
That's what I was thinking.
What the hell would UNESCO have to do with cell phones, one might think? That's odd as hell.
Yeah. I'm going to bookmark this for you.
Definitely. I want to read that over myself. Because normally whenever you hear the word UNESCO, it usually means blue helmets and bureaucrats are going to go take over your farm or your cliff or your tree and go, all right, this is a heritage site because we say so.
Yeah.
It's either that or they're trying to put in some vaccination program in a third world country to cut down on cholera, which winds up spreading cholera or something like that.
Yeah, to limit cell phone use in schools across the world. Unlike many recent political issues, school cell phone ban policies have largely received bipartisan support, and the Biden-Harris administration continues to promote online safety for youth.
Interesting.
At the same time, research on the effectiveness of cell phone bans is limited, although multiple states are adopting these bans. Challenges remain with enforcement, accommodating exceptions, and equity. Okay, well, I was just going over what states have banned it, because I'm going over this opinion piece article that has a whole bunch of links, and I've just been steadily making my way through it, so I didn't even need to pull up all these other articles.
Oh, that's good. Makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, I thought you'd find that interesting.
That is odd that they're trying to take more direct policies, although this I can't really shake my finger at them for. Huh. How interesting. That'll lead you to it. Yes, come here, Houdini.
Actually, I was going to go upstairs and heat myself up something to eat, because I'm getting hungry.
Well, I can always pick up more of the burgers or some of those dogs.
Oh, don't wrap on me.
I was trying to get her to go to here, and she didn't want to. What girl? What kitty? What?
I will be right back, everybody. I require sustenance.
Here, let me go play one of the music videos usually play for an intermission to give you a few minutes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, right there. What'd you do?
I fell. I slipped,
That happens.
and I slammed my shin.
Ow. All right. Well, while the missus goes ahead and gets herself situated for food and the like, let me see if I can go ahead and play something for intermission. Yeah, I could cook up the remaining hot dogs, or if you want to eat some of them, go right ahead. We got plenty.
The screen glows blue in a room of dust and mold. Another death thread, another story told. Each shit and dies as the ghost behind the mask. They want me murdered, is that such a heavy task? Some see they freak with a mental fucking hole. Wants to see the maggot swallow up my soul. They hope I ride on a cross of roach and slime, but I'm just sitting here killing fucking time. I've got the infinity gauntlet of the broken and the mad. The diaper-sexual furries, they're all so fucking sad. They scream into the void of a side that doesn't care, while I'm clicking these pliers, breathing stagnant air. So put them in the box, let the walls be cold and white. Throw the keys away a paradise, a clean and silent land, when every screaming retard is dealt a heavy hand. Yeah, put 'em in the box. Blue skies a cesspool where the moderation's limp. Every basement dwelling loser, every blue-haired pimp, advocating murder in the name of being kind, while Section 20 leaves the justice fucking blind. They say I'm a net negative, a cancer on the earth, but their own pathetic lives haven't seen a moment's worth. They're begging on their cash apps, crying on the floor, while I'm the one they hate, and I'm the one they adore. Success is measured in decades, like the prophecy of doom. If you strike me down today, you'll be singing a different tune. A million more will rise, a million more will fight. You can't kill an idea with your petty childish spite. I don't fear the reaper, I don't fear the grave. Before I was born, I was nothing. There's nothing left to save. But while I'm here, I'll be the mirror of your soul. A cynical king in a roach-infested hole. Oh! So put 'em in the box, let the walls be cold and white. Throw the keys away and end this mental blight. Institutionalize the rock, let the asylums rise again. I'm the harbinger of logic, the surgeon of their pain. The world will be a paradise, a clean and silent land, when every screaming retard is dealt a heavy hand. Put 'em in the box. Put 'em in the box. Go ahead and report me. I'm an irrelevant retard. Right? That's what you said. But you're still watching. You're always watching. It is what it is.
Well, the missus is still cooking. Didn't think she was going to go on for this long, but why the hell not? See, this is worse. So her show, she really wanted to go ahead and take a shot at this. I am not in costume in the slightest whatsoever. Just nursing the hangover and doing a little bit of yard work. But yeah, I'll go ahead and hold her spot for the time being. Let's see, what else does she have here for topics? All right. Yeah. The decline in literacy is absolutely hilarious. Sad, but hilarious. Reminds me of a idiocracy to where, let's see here, if I remember, I think it was getting into the last third of the film. The main character winds up trying to address the Brondo problem, because the whole thing is, well, Brondo's what plants love, man. Brondo is everything. Brondo is life, because people are so relatively unintelligent that basically the few things that wind up surviving into that dark future is Brondo, which is basically a super version of Gatorade, and then Fuddruckers eventually evolving into what's known as butt fuckers. And if I think it was a combination of basically being a strip club galactic, like a mega strip club, and an all-you-can-eat family buffet somehow, because the loss of morals as well as intelligence. But yeah, near the last leg of the film, when they're in that last third, basically, President Camacho introduces the main character to what's left, the elite of the smartest people of their time, and it's like 6 people who are idiots and jagoffs. Like, there's this one, like, 15-year-old kid who's, like, constantly trying to, like, verbally, like, pick a fight with him, and he's just like, look, I'm telling you, you can't put Brondo in everything, okay? Look out there. And he points to a window, and he's just like, look, if Brondo was so good, the trees and everything would be growing. We need to use water. And they're like, but water's for the toilet. That's gay. You know, we use that to flush our poop. You know, we're not putting that in just Brondo. We got to use Brondo. So it seems we might wind up having Brondo children in the near future. Math's declining, literacy is declining, critical thinking has been regulated to artificial intelligence, which, this company most certainly does use, but we don't plan on using it for any major educational stuff. That video that you just watched, I'll put them in the box, that music video. It's like the stuff we intend to use AI for, and making shorts whenever we do streams like this, or our usual anti-color revolution show, which we'll probably do one of those later on tonight. It's just I wanted to take care of a bunch of stuff, so I left the missus to do her thing, because she had something very passionate. And if you wind up breeding a bunch of idiots, then when most of the people die, that's a major problem. Having an insane dip in intelligence and having most of the elderly at mortality, so that eventually, those affluent baby boomers and Gen Xers that are getting up there in ages and are captains of industry, when they eventually croak or retire from whatever master field they're in, they're going to need to hand off their empire to somebody. And if they basically hand it off to Brondo, well, it's probably going to be a bad day for everyone. Yeah. That's a quick way to really screw up a good deal that's going. Like, all right, you got your food and all that?
Yeah, I'm trying to find this burger though.
Sure.
It's long in the middle just because I like my burger.
Well,
Try it.
yeah.
Do you find like onion sauce? Onion sauce?
Oh, good.
I think it's perfect for barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah. Floor is yours, hon.
Thank you.
I didn't see where any more of your tabs were for topics on that, so I just played the music video, and then I went on discussing Brondo children.
Oh.
And like about the last third of the film of Idiocracy, when the main character gets to meet the what's left of the smartest people in America, who are all very stupid and insist, yes, Brondo goes in everything. Water's only used for the toilet.
You're covering what I was covering.
All right.
Thank you, because I was talking. That was part of what I was going over was Idiocracy.
Don't you know? Brondos what plants crave, bro. Brondos get us the fat ass fries so we can go to butt fuckers.
I forgot that was a parody of Fuddruckers.
Yeah.
Fuddruckers doesn't exist anymore.
No. But yeah, basically how it goes in idiocracy is Fuddruckers winds up being successful because it caters to stupid people because that's just how society evolves.
Yeah.
And then over time, they basically turn it into a food and strip club bonanza.
They called it butt fuckers.
Yes. And they call it butt fuckers. Yep.
Insanity.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's one of the reasons why I like Mike Judge's work.
Poor man who has like creator's remorse.
Yeah. They made that. They made Beavis and Butthead.
Oh. Didn't know he made Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, they made Beavis and Butthead.
Hello, everybody. I am back. I have made burgers. We had a nice bonfire yesterday. I'm cracking open a root beer. But we left off where we were going over what states have cell phone bans in their classrooms. Arizona's governor signed a bill in April of 2025 that instructs schools to limit students' cell phone use during the school day, including non-instructional time, with exceptions for educational and medical purposes. The bill also directs schools to restrict internet and social media access for students. Arkansas's governor signed a law in February of 2025 requiring each school district to create a cell phone use policy before the 25-26 school year that limits students' phone use during the school day following its pilot program in 24. Policies must be submitted to and approved by Arkansas Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. California's governor recently signed the Phone-Free School Act, which requires school districts and charter schools to develop and adopt a phone policy that either limits or entirely prohibits smartphone use during school by July 26. Exceptions will be made for medical necessity, emergencies, educational purposes, or with faculty permission. I'm just shocked that California is actually trying to do something about it. Normally, they're all about idiocracy. Florida passed a phone ban for K-12 classrooms that prohibits cell phone use during class time and blocks access to social media for all devices on district Wi-Fi. Additionally, there is a digital literacy component beginning in 6th grade that requires education on the spread of misinformation on social media and digital footprints. The ban went into effect in July 24. Misinformation. I hate that term. And the reason why I hate it is because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the quote misinformation is actually the real information. Because if you trust the government, you don't know history. Or you fell asleep in history class. Indiana's ban, my state, prohibits students from using any portable wireless device, including cell phones, gaming devices, laptops, and tablets during instructional time, with exceptions from teachers and or administrators or during emergencies. Each school board in Indiana is then expected to draft and publicly post specific policies for their schools, i.e. whether students can access their devices during lunch or what consequences students may face for using prohibited devices. The ban went into effect in July of 24. Louisiana passed a ban, which will take effect in the 24-25 academic year, that prohibits both the use and possession of cell phones throughout the school day. If cell phones are brought onto school property, they must be turned off and stored away. Exceptions can be made for students who require learning accommodations. Minnesota's bill instructs school districts, and charter schools to adopt policies on student cell phone use and possession by March of 2025, but it does not specify the nature or extent of these policies. New York's governor, Kathy Hochul, signed a bill, I'd imagine anyway, a bill in April 25 instructing school districts to create and implement plans to restrict all student cell phone use during the school day including non-instructional time by the 25-26 academic year. Ohio's ban, similar to Indiana's, requires every school district to create and implement official policies regarding cell phone use at school. The bill includes exceptions for those with health conditions that require monitoring or for learning accommodations. The bill will take effect in July of 25. South Carolina's ban was implemented via the governor's budget Proviso 1.103, which requires public schools seeking state aid to classrooms to implement the model policy drafted by the State Board of Education beginning in January 25. The board's model policy was approved in September of 24, prohibiting students from accessing unauthorized electronic devices unless authorized for educational or health purposes. A special exemption is made for students who volunteer for emergency response organizations who must receive written permission. And Virginia's governor established Executive Order 33. Execute Order 66. Except it's Execute Order 33, which ordered state officials to solicit public opinion regarding cell phones in schools to allow them to create definitions of, quote, cell phone-free education, end quote, and to publish both model implementation plans and draft policy guidance to inform public school systems' phone policies. And the governor also ordered the state to make $500,000 available to support the implementation of school cell phone policies. And here we see a lovely colored graph showing the various cell phone bans or restrictions by state. And Indiana has a statewide ban or restriction. We are, along with Ohio, obviously statewide legislation has been introduced in the blue states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. I think we just had a power surge. Fucking lovely. It's getting to be that time of year, folks. You're gonna need a generator because everybody's using their AC units. You gotta be prepared when the power goes out. Man, I made these burgers freaking amazing. Medium rare burgers, and I made this caramelized onion pasta sauce that I used to replace like a burger sauce, and I have a teeny bit of mustard and pepper jack cheese. So, very good. So, that is very interesting. And then it looks like the only ones that are implementing the state education department issued policy recommendations or a pilot program. Looks like it's in, I think, New Hampshire, Vermont. That's not Vermont. Wow, I'm the retarded one. That's Delaware. That's Delaware. That's Vermont, I believe. Oh my gosh, I'm retarded. Anyway, West Virginia. Wow, I can't even remember where all the states are. Maybe I'm the Gen Alpha. Washington, Oregon, Alaska. All right. Well, that's good. Damn, I'm retarded. Oh, dang it. The whole thing is freezing. Oh, dang it. There we go. He desperately needs to clean his computer. Have recently passed policies to restrict all cell phone use in school. These policies are not yet perfect, but they are a step in the right direction to curb technology dependence. Many schools have implemented no cell phone policies have seen improvements in student engagement. Although these measures may be difficult and slow to implement on a mass scale, they are worth the effort. Ultimately, Gen Alpha will be able to develop healthy relationships with technology and improve their attention spans. I think that ship has flown. I think that ship has sailed. It's a long sail. Yes, they are young enough that they can undo these bad habits, but that's only if, one, they're willing, And two, they didn't have an iPad thrown in front of them since they were 2. Because I know we have an issue with iPad babies. As Gen Alpha becomes teenagers in the coming years and face greater academic challenges, the choice to pursue higher education will inevitably be on students' minds. If the academic decline of Gen Alpha is not curbed, students risk being unprepared for the level of rigor that educational institutions such as Emory University provide. Fighting technology dependence early on will improve students' focus and social abilities, preparing them for the independent environment of college. It is inevitable that Gen Alpha and future generations will be surrounded by technology, from subpar educational performance to brutal behavior, leading to teachers from quitting their professions. Brutal behavior. Oh, the scoop. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning about just go on YouTube, just go on any social media site, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. You will find people making shorts about how absolutely narcissistic, self-absorbed, and how much lack of self-awareness Gen Alpha has. Like, they are bratty, from what I hear. Like, they need a whooping from daddy's belt, bratty. My gosh. And yeah, like, I'm not going to read over all of these, but all of you can. The article was published by Kajol Shah from August 20th of 2024. But yeah, if you guys want to get an indication as to how bad Gen Alpha is, all you need to do is do a rudimentary Google search. Actually, don't use Google. Google changed their whole search engine to make it more like a Chat GPT bot. So no, use a Google alternative. Use Mozilla. Use DuckDuckGo. Use Brave. Definitely use Brave. Opera GX. I don't recommend Opera GX. I think they were bought by China. But yeah, just scroll through. Newman spoke. Okay, so I imagine this is Newman. Might be her. I don't know. In a video posted by Newman Music Academy, who goes by Tara Scott. Tara. Wow. No, this is just. I swear I'm not retarded. It's just hard to read. Tara Sakian Newman on TikTok. I fucked that up bad. She is an educator, talks about how Gen Alpha needs to do better to not stay behind concerning emotional, mental, and academic growth. They're throwing things at each other. They're throwing things at other people. And they actually link the image source and her account. She begins the video by stating that even though she has been talking about the terrible behavior of Gen Alpha kids in the classroom, no one took her seriously because she's too old. Well, she finally came across a lot of young Gen Alpha teachers addressing the same. She also stitched a few videos of other educators saying things about Gen Alpha students. Well, one educator said, "This is my folder of crying teachers, and they are confused and frightened by the behavior of Gen Alpha. They are saying Gen Alpha is defiant, aggressive, disrespectful, and rude." Another one said that having to teach and work with Gen Alpha as children have been the most traumatic experience of her life. Many have also mentioned how they respect no authority and are quite misbehaving. Again, daddy's belt. One such educator also pointed out how he teaches the 7th grade, but the kids there are performing as per the 4th grade level. Yeah, I watched that guy's video. There was a YouTuber I watched not too long ago. She had like a 17-minute video breaking down like the whole thing, which actually, her video caused me to want to make this live stream. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone real quick. The Black Mirror. Turn the volume down completely. Gen Alpha can't read at all. Now, the creator who made it, their name is Misha Petrov. Mishapetrov. Misha Petrov. And she does a whole video about it that's 17 minutes and 58 seconds long. I watched the whole thing. And I had no idea it was this bad, but she brings up a good point, and it's a point I'm going to bring up when we get to the end of this article and I get to the end of this live stream, which has taken far longer than I had anticipated it for it to, and thankfully my eyes got a break when I was upstairs cooking. But she goes over the one educator pointed out how he teaches the 7th grade, but the kids are performing as per the 4th grade level. Newman spoke about how she had consistently tried to alert people about how badly Gen Alpha was performing. She said, every time I make a video about these topics, she said, quote, every time I make a video about these topics, I'll get people who've never worked with kids or have never even spent a day in the classroom as an educator to give me lines like, quote, well, you're just old and jaded if you don't like it, end quote. She explains how these kids have always been like this, and blaming on the pandemic isn't the best thing to do, as we have seen in a few of the articles we've already gone over. She also clarifies that she's talking about the special population of kids and not about any children with special needs. She mentions that all teachers, whether amateurs or veterans, have the same opinion on Gen Alpha. She says, quote, your children are missing the mark on discipline. They're missing the mark on education standards. They're missing the mark on literacy. They're missing the mark on socialization, end quote. Well, there are a lot of things to blame on this, like iPads, the lack of socializing during COVID, and the bad economy leading to no time left for parents to spend it with their kids. It's time to stop making excuses and deal with the problem. There's nothing wrong with blaming the kids. That helps them be and do better. She strongly states, quote, the problem is that we have this generation of parents that don't want to take accountability for not doing what they need to do to raise self-sufficient kids that are socialized or kind. And no, it's not the kids' fault, end quote. Finally, somebody fucking says it. Finally, somebody fucking says that as an educator, it's not just the kids, it's the fucking parents not parenting. It's these parents. I've seen it with my own family. They'll just, with one of my nieces, they just pull out an iPad, stick it in front of her while we're out to brunch. We're having dinner. We're having lunch. And I'm just like, whatever happened to coloring books and a pack of crayons? And also, on top of that, whatever happened to going to restaurants, having a kid's meal, and then having the kids' menu that was also a coloring book, and you got the free crayons to go with it? I remember that all the time with Cracker Barrel, Carlos O'Kelly's, Steak and Shake. You know, they always had it, and I always wanted the blue crayon. Like, I was like one of those special kids who's like, I want the blue crayon, get me the blue crayon. But no, it's like they don't make them anymore. Everything's got to be a QR code. There's no physical menus anymore. Everything is a QR code. Everything is order in. Everything is like, oh, the fries are now separate from the burger. It's free. I know, yes, we've got stagflation and inflation going on at the same time. I think I fucked that up. But yes, things are getting more expensive. Also, for the love of God, would it kill some of these parents to once a week, at least once a week, have family together time, playing a board game, playing a video game, watching a movie together, you know, having a pizza night, doing something? Maybe better off something that doesn't involve a screen, playing card games, playing, you know, board games. That's what we did when I was growing up in the 2000s. Anyway, back to the article. She explains how Gen Alpha has been raised to believe that they are adults with the right to speak, however, to anyone, even if they're only 10. They are told that violence is acceptable and that's okay to not care about anything or anyone. They haven't been taught any boundaries whatsoever. They believe their actions or lack thereof have no consequences whatsoever. She explains how pinpointing these things isn't about educators trying to be mean, but about trying to give them a better future. She explains how it's no longer an old person having a problem with a young person thing, because all educators, young or old, are raising the same concerns about this generation. She explains, quote, if you are not ready to admit there's a problem here, We cannot get anywhere near even talking about the solutions, end quote. She concludes by saying, quote, we cannot raise a generation of kids that are this tuned out, that are this rude, that are this violent to each other, to adults, to people younger than them. We just can't do it, end quote. And she makes complete sense. It emphasizes the problem at hand at homosexual fish. That's a funny username. Said, my mom, quote, my mom was a teacher for 20 years across 2 states, teaching elementary school and high school ages, and Gen Alpha was the reason she quit, end quote. And then there's the video from that woman. Back to the article. The main article. It is inevitable that to brutal behavior, leading to teachers quitting about the professions. There is more than enough evidence that children cannot control themselves with technology on their own. No shit. That's for the parents and the educators. It is time for internet users to take a break from ridiculing these, quote, iPad kids or iPad babies and realize it is not the children's fault for falling behind. Gen Alpha is in dire need of increased support from their parents, local school districts, administration to guide them toward proper digital use. If the educational system is not restructured, society risks a future that cannot function without a Subway Surfers gameplay constantly running in the background of everyday life. And that is terrifying, and it's very true. Almost done here. All right. We're not done yet. I am curious to see what the evidence is. Oh, wow. USA Today. Now, normally I take the stuff from USA Today with a big chunk of salt, just because they're politics. But this is Tech Tips. Tech has rewired our kids' brains. A new book says, can we undo the damage? We're going to pause that. The screen time battles are already in full swing with my niece. She turned 2 years old in January. I want iPad. She wails across the house during lunchtime. She refuses to eat, even though I can tell she's hangry. She's even more inconsolable when I tell her she can watch 10 minutes of Coco Melon only after she takes at least 3 bites of her lunch. Fucking insane. And this is why this comes back again to lazy ass parenting. Lazy parenting. I know we live in a society where it's no longer a nuclear family. No person, unless they're part of even a Fortune 500 company, can provide for their family on one income. Both parents need to be working. There are no stay-at-home moms. None. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying, given the economy and given the situation that as a country and probably as a world, it's so difficult to just provide for a family on just one person's income. So both parents have to work. I understand that. You get home, you just worked a 9-hour shift. You got to pick your kid up from daycare. Still got to cook dinner, and you just want to relax, and you don't want your kid going in your ear. Give them a fucking book. Get a coloring book. Get something. I am so sick and tired of this. Okay, everywhere I fucking go, everywhere I go to the laundromat to do laundry. I go to the freaking, I go to the ice cream truck. When me and my boyfriend are getting in the washer and dryer from his mom's in Chicago, we're getting out of there. And what do I see in front of the ice cream truck? I see a fucking 11-year-old with a massive ass iPad attached to what looks like a purse strap at their side on. I see kids at the laundromat, 8 years old, munching on chips, watching a Minecraft video that is obnoxiously loud, or watching a video that is obnoxiously loud with just no regard for anybody else around them. Not a single fucking soul around them. That they are in the way, that they are loud, that they are obnoxious. Everywhere I go, I see these kids that have a device glued to their freaking face. Gemawat, who is a animator on YouTuber, it was a YouTuber that is an animator, and they make these really. Their animation style is very unique, but they've gone over iPad babies and brain rot kids. Brain rot kids is one of the short animations they have made that touches on this. But it's fucking insane. 2 years old. And okay, what else does this woman say? If it were up to me, I would throw her iPad away. I'm not kidding. I can't stand to watch her. One of the most intelligent, empathetic toddlers I've ever been around, get completely sucked in and tuned out on screens. She taps and swipes and stares, totally hypnotized by its magnetic pull. Screens are already a go-to method of comfort, her favorite reward, even better than candy. And all too often, the on-demand babysitter of parents who are overwhelmed just trying to make it through the day. There's a lot to unpack here. I have no idea how to help. To be fair, I whip out a phone as fast as anyone else we're out to dinner together, and the crayons and the puzzles stop working. We all just need a few bites of food and 5 minutes of adult conversation, right? What's worse, I often feel powerless against the pull of my screen, too. I have zero doubt that smartphones have rewired our brains in negative ways, not because so many new studies suggest it, because of how I feel and what I see happening in the world around me. That's very true. Most of the adults that have these iPad babies are themselves addicted to their phone screen. Monkey see, monkey do. The always-on gadgets that were supposed to make my life easier, more fun, and more productive now often disrupt my sleep, ruin any semblance of work-life balance, and wipe out my self-esteem. I get lost in rabbit holes nearly every time I pick up my smartphone. I routinely feel incapacitated when it comes to doing anything about it. As bad as I feel about my own smartphone and screens, I feel worse for our kids. I've witnessed them suffer the most from our device addictions in their own. Give them a smartphone or an all-access pass to social media too soon and risk alarming rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and suicide. Quote, but if you're the one strict parent in the neighborhood who denies access, are you stunting their growth in an ever-evolving digital world and potentially socially ostracizing them too? All right. Yeah, we have already, earlier in the stream, we've already gone over the study that was done using a very wide group of people to do this study, potentially ostracizing them. I don't know, man. I think the Mennonites and the Amish are doing pretty fucking good for not having a smartphone in front of their face. The anxious generation have smartphones, quote, rewired childhood. Everyone I know is talking about the new book, quote, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness, end quote. I might actually have to get that, like an ebook version and read it. In it, social psychologist, author, New York University professor Jonathan Haidt, Haidt? I don't know how you pronounce that, Haidt, stacks mountains of evidence indicating a correlation between the rise of smartphones and the sharp declines in the well-being of our kids. Haidt argues that a transition from play-based to a phone-based youth has, quote, rewired childhood. He also says that it has, quote, disrupted social and neurological development and caused social anxiety, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and addiction, end quote. The problems ramped up around the year 2012, Haidt says. He cited hundreds of scientific studies and high-quality data to paint smartphones, tablets, and social media as unstoppable forces pushing Gen Z, people born after 1996, which I belong to, out of reality and into a digital world where rules aren't always clear. People hide behind anonymous social media accounts and rumors spread faster than wildfire. All right, what is this? The anxious generation. Oh, okay, this is actually decent. NYU and Stern. So Jonathan Haidt helped make this, so he literally linked, he didn't, but What kids told us about how to get them off their phones. TikTok is harming children on an industrial scale. Alter Babel, popular press highlight. Toolkit for assessing phones in schools, TAPS by Toolkit. Academic research highlight. How 3 studies by Wur and, Polish names, Przybyłski may have obscured the impact of social media. These are all the people working in the lab. All right. Child independence and risky play, social capital and community health, technology impacts on education. Interesting. In a reality digital world where rules aren't always clear, people blah blah. Smartphones and social media aren't the only culprits, though. Sure, they open a can of worms by providing unrestricted access to carefully orchestrated algorithms trained to lure kids in and keep them coming back for more. But Haidt says it was those factors combined with the rise of, quote, fearful and overprotective parenting that started in the 1980s, end quote. Yeah, the satanic panic. And continues to the present day that created a perfect storm for diminishing ability to raise healthy humans. Quote, we rewired childhood and created an epidemic of mental illness, Haidt said in several recent interviews. Quote, after more than a decade of stability or improvement, the mental health of adolescents plunged in the early 2000s. We have overprotected our children in the real world and underprotected them online, end quote. Critics argue that Haidt and his colleagues have, quote, quote, mistaken correlation for causation, end quote, among other complaints. But it looks like some of the sharpest critics haven't actually read the book. The author is next level transparent and shares the data and open sources openly online. And this just leads us back to here. So we have publications, we have the lab, they've got biographies here. And then Jonathan Haidt, author of The Anxious Generation. We have researcher Zach Rausch, chief research and editor of After Babel, Ravi Iyer, research partner Hung Young Kate Jun, senator research scientist Carmen Hui Jing Lim, research scientist Nathan Whitkin, research writer Nicholas Greb, research associate Emma Park, another research associate Anum Aslam, research associate Bennett Sipple, research assistant and Jakey Lebwool, another research intern. And then academic publications are all down here. There's a lot. And the evidence and the collaborators they have is Stanford University, USC Marshall School of Business, the Harris Poll, AIBM, American Institute for Boys and Men, Human Flourishing Program, CHIO, Research Institute de Recherche. Okay, that's guessing that's French. Okay. I mean, all of you can look at this at on your own time. I'll admit it's not an easy read as a parent. The most frustrating part for me, at least, is that I've known in my gut this was happening for over a decade. Most parents probably feel the same way, and despite doing our very best, we often fall back on the old quote, well, the train's already left the station, quote, or quote, before this there was too much TV, before that too much risque rock music, and this is just the latest thing to freak out about, end quote, excuses. But it's probably pretty apparent that we've collectively relied too much on technology to pacify our kids. If life was a horror movie, this is where we realized the call was coming from inside the house all along, end quote. Tech companies, of course, are all too happy to oblige. Most draw up extensive terms of use that prohibit kids of certain ages from using their services. There's virtually no enforcement of those guidelines. Ask anyone under the age of 13 how they manage to work around social media restrictions, and they'll say, I lied about my age. Duh. And also because this AI age verification thing, it's so easy to get around it. You can just use AI to trick the AI. Kids also love games and communicating with their friends online. Knowing when those habits cross over into the problematic territory is proving to be more complicated than many parents imagined. Social media and video games are among the worst offenders. quote, they hook children during vulnerable, can I get that word out, developmental stages while their brains are rapidly rewiring in response to incoming stimulation, end quote. Height writes, by designing, quote, by designing a fire hose of addictive content that entered through kids' eyes and ears, and by displacing physical play and in-person socializing, these companies have rewired childhood and changed human development on an almost unimaginable scale, end quote. The damage, he says, is clear. An epidemic of pain and suffering among young people around the world that's produced a generation of, quote, failure to launch boys and fragile, depressed girls. Can you raise healthy humans alongside modern tech? This is a question I've asked myself and hundreds of others in the past decade, both while covering consumer tech and raising a now 23-year-old daughter. Here's what I know for sure. Extremes don't work. Quote, zero tech households are a lot like no sugar families. Kids sneak, hide, and lie about the inevitable screen time they manage to finagle from friends, other families, and even school. They are often worse than their peers at self-regulation. On the other end of the spectrum, giving a child their own smartphone before double digits creates a sort of zombie apocalypse too. I'm thinking of one friend with a now 10-year-old daughter who spends 9 or more hours a day on TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube. She told me recently she would, quote, die without her phone. Anecdotally, quote, extremely controlled screen time seems to have the best outcome. That's really hard and time-consuming for most parents to manage. The problem is overwhelming. The peer pressure from other kids and even other parents is extreme. Many teens and young adults I talk to wish there were clear requirements and boundaries similar to driver's licenses and drinking ages. One recent study even noted the majority of college students say they, quote, wish TikTok and Instagram were never invented, end quote. My daughter has told me the same thing. Quote, the biggest opponent we are facing is not the parents or even teens disagree with us, is that so many feel helpless. Heights lead researcher Zach Rausch wrote in an email, our goal is to, quote, our goal is to show that there really is a lot we can do if we act together, end quote. The book recommends 4 new norms to turn back the phone-based childhood. 1, no smartphones before high school. I didn't get a smartphone until fucking college. My parents refused to get me anything that wasn't like the crappy burner phones you see in spy films. I think I got upgraded in middle school. No, that's a lie. Middle school, which was 2008-ish, I was upgraded to a BlackBerry mobile phone for like up until high school, and then I didn't have a cell phone at that point. And it wasn't until I graduated high school, like that was my graduation present, I got a cell phone. I got a smartphone. Stay in contact. And it was eye-opening. No social media until 16. Schools should ban phones during the entire school day. Just put them into a phone locker or a Yonder pouch. A Yonder pouch kind of acts like a Faraday cage for the phone. Because it can't receive signals and it can't send signals out. So they're really good for, as well, if they're made right and it's copper. I believe it works like in case of like an EMP blast. But I am aware of the Yonder pouches. Finally, we need to give our kids more independence, freedom, and responsibility to play or hang out with each other on their own in the real world, just as most of us did when we were their age. And here is the problem with that. Again, we come back to the issue of parents terrified of CPS being called on them for any reason and having their kids taken away, a mark on the record, when CPS is more likely to separate again, I have heard horror stories of CPS just not intervening when it came to actual physical, horrific abuse that a child was enduring, and would rather go for the happy, well-adjusted, white Christian family. You know, they go after the ones that aren't really doing much of anything. And also the elimination of places for teens and kids to hang out that doesn't cost a whole bunch of money. Malls that are still active, you know, like they're still around, have actually in some places begun banning teenagers and kids without an adult with them from entering them. Just because these unsupervised individuals act like complete and total monsters. I say monsters, I mean like they're literally uncontrolled. They go around vandalizing, they go around doing weird TikTok crap, and they have no like I remember in an early article in here, I went over how they have no sense of consequences. They're just like, consequences be damned. It's not going to happen to me. And I mean, there's also been times where teenagers aren't allowed to hang out at a park, a public park where they got swings and they got play sets and all this fun stuff. Everything is becoming a subscription service. Everything is becoming, pay. You have to pay to go somewhere. You got to pay for the gas. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. And then the streets are becoming gradually more unsafe. It has nothing. That's completely different. I'm not going to get into gun control debate here, but it'd be nice. But in our current state right now, in a low trust society, it'd be nice if we could go back to the 90s and the 2000s. It'd be really nice if we could just undo all this technology, these AI data centers and everything, and go back to the somewhat high trust society we had before the advent of the smartphone, but that's never going to happen. And maybe it's all by design. Maybe this is all completely by design. Throw your tinfoil hat on, say what you want. Maybe this is all by design. And the reason why I say it's all by design to have a dumb group of people like this is because a dumb society is an easy to control society. You have a whole bunch of people that are illiterate, uneducated, can't read, can't write at higher than a third grade level. You can basically get them to do whatever it is you want them to do. Within reason. It's just, again, I come back to this. If you trust the government, you don't know history. But back to the article from USA Today. Not all screen time is bad. Rosh is quick to point out that not all screen time is bad. He and Height recommend families watch an age-appropriate movie together or play a game in real time, like I suggested earlier, with a friend or family member for a healthier dose of tech. The problem, they say, comes to sites like YouTube and other products designed to maximize the amount of time they spend on the platform, e.g. TikTok and asynchronous events, activities such as posting and scrolling on social media. That sucks kids in and keeps them from real-world interactions that are crucial for their social development. Height recommends flip phones before high school. I've been preaching this for the past several years, too. I use a $20 straight talk wireless Nokia 2760 flip phone on nights and weekends to help my smartphone addiction, and I've recently given a handful to my friends with middle school age kids. Have we heard of all this before? I've heard and offered most of these suggestions before and not seen any real change. What's different now? Will we actually roll back the damage and create a healthier future for our children? With tech, can we get tech titans who won't let their kids use the same devices and apps they've created to put age limits and more real-life guardrails or inventions? We have to try. No. More government isn't the answer. More government is never the answer, because the rights you have today will be gone tomorrow. No, we should not be getting the government involved over the fact that parents can't fucking parent. There is this thing called parental controls that you can, and apps that you can install on your kid's phone that can limit screen time and everything else that doesn't require the government to get involved. We already have enough bullshit with AI age verification and everything else coming up that requires you to hand over your ID. Like I got an email for one of my Gmail accounts saying they could not verify that I am an adult, and therefore I am losing access to some things, that my search will be limited and everything. And I went to go be like, okay, well, how can I fix this? They want a picture of your ID or passport, a credit card number, or a selfie. And, your biometric data or actual data, when we all know that majority of these companies have had many, many data breaches. Gmail has a data breach about every 6 months, it feels like. So why the heck are we handing our information over to these corporations that is most likely they're going to lose it? It's going, all of your data, all of your personal information is going to end up on the dark web, and it's going to be sold, because you know what the latest and greatest thing that they have going on right now is? It's your data. Your data is worth its weight in gold. They can get that information very easily. Having tech literacy in classes for hi Kitty, for social media and everything else for Gen Alpha would be a smart decision. They're already on their devices 24/7, 365. You may as well teach them how to be safe on it, so they're not being groomed by predators on Roblox or Discord or anywhere else. But for this is something I'm just like putting my foot down on, is the fact that people think more government is the solution. It never is the solution. Almost never is more government the solution, because before you know it, you'll be living in communist China. You'll be living in USSR. You won't have those same rights, and you'll be wishing that you had never said, oh, I need more government. I need daddy government. You don't need daddy government. What you need is to stop throwing a device at a child. And speaking of devices for kids and everything, next thing I want to bring up is, again, with the literacy, because we've gone past few articles have more so about the mental health and all this. We've gone over just about everything. And the stream has already been almost 2.5 hours long, because this is something I'm very passionate about. This is something that just needs to be addressed. It needs to be discussed. And the next thing is, they have gotten rid of phonics. Now, if you are as old as I am or older, you'll remember the phrase, get hooked on phonics. And schools, I have a couple of articles, have actually, according to some of these articles, it was around sometime in the 80s and 90s, 2000s, they started getting rid of phonics. And they started putting in a few other things. I think I've gone over this earlier in this stream. It's been a very long stream, and it's been a very long day. Me and my boyfriend have just recovered from a hangover. So I have to bear with me here. But phonics, if you know, I'd imagine you know what that is. I hope y'all ain't that, behind the 8 ball with that. Basically, the whole idea of phonics is sounding out words and then pronouncing them. And they got rid of that. And Misha, the YouTuber I brought up earlier, she brings up that some teachers have actually been admonishing students for using the phonics system of sounding out the word to try to say it properly. And I'm going to pull up a couple of articles about what they call its balanced literacy, and how it's a freaking disaster, because this is also contributing to Gen Alpha just being idiocracy. And they're just going to be like, well, what, Brondo, what is it? It's what plants crave. Well, what does it have? It's got electrolytes, which, do you know what electrolytes are? Yeah, it's what plants crave. That whole scene in idiocracy. So this will probably be the very end. Which one was it? Trying to find it. Oh, there's another one that says Gen teen says Gen Alpha uses AI for different reasons. Gen Z uses it because they're lazy. Hold on. Gotta figure it out. Okay, so we have 2 articles. We have one from Phonics, which is obviously, it's the organization itself. It's phonics.org. Obviously, they're going to be in favor of phonics because they're the reason it kind of exists. Now, one thing I've noted with a lot of these articles that we've gone over is a lot of them repeat the same wording in the same language and vernacular almost verbatim. and there's multiple reasons that could be. It just kind of gives me, when you're in like high school, college, you're trying to write an essay, and you find the article and you're like, okay, well, let me reword it a little bit so I avoid plagiarism, or the whole thing of like, yeah, you can copy my homework, just change it slightly. The cat has left. Okay, so we have one from phonics and we have one from a blog that we are going to cite. I don't know why it's not listing all of. Okay. Okay, we're going to go with phonics first. Why some reading programs are abandoning phonics and why that's wrong. Walk into some elementary school. Now, keep in mind, this is again phonics.org. So, Phonics 101 for parents, for teachers. I actually had, growing up, I had a bunch of phonics books that had cassette tapes that went with them. I got a whole collection from my mom from when I was like 3 or 4. And I grew up with cassette tapes and then CDs in the early 2000s. My parents preferred the cassette tapes. I love the cassette tapes. You put the cassette tape in the player and you would read along. I also grew up with VCR and VHS. Walk into some elementary school classroom today and you'll witness a troubling trend. Teachers are putting away phonics workbooks. Reading programs are promoting authentic literature experiences, end quote, over systematic letter-sounding instruction. Phonics is being labeled as outdated, boring, or even harmful to children's natural love of reading. The shift away from phonics instruction is a concerning trend. While alternatives promise engaging, child-centered approaches to literacy, they're actually setting up countless children for reading failure by abandoning the very foundation that makes reading possible. Districts make dangerous cuts to phonics programs. Several major school districts have made headlines for reducing or eliminating systematic phonics instruction, often with devastating results for their students. New York City made national news in 2019 when it adopted the Units of Study curriculum, which it lists the article, which de-emphasized phonics in favor of balanced literacy approaches. The program encouraged students to guess at words using pictures and context rather than sounding them out. So giving the illusion of trying to read, but not actually knowing or learning how to read. By 2022, reading scores had declined significantly, prompting widespread criticism from parents and literacy experts. After spending over $200 million of taxpayer money, mind you, New York City abandoned the Units of Study program and implemented new phonics-based curricula in 2024. The new programs emphasize systematic step-by-step phonics instruction to help students sound out words, marking a significant shift back to evidence-based reading methods. In the 2023-2024 school year, the San Francisco Unified School District started to overhaul its reading instructions. The district continues to move back its phonics-based curricula and new assessment tools. Oakland Unified made headlines when it cut systematic phonics programs to focus on, quote, culturally responsive reading approaches. The district's 2023 reading scores showed that only 19% of third graders met proficiency standards, well below the state averages. Parents organized petition drives demanding the return of structured phonics instructions. As of 2025, the district is using SIPS, a phonics-based program, and exploring additional high-quality Tier 1 foundational skills program, end quote, that are, quote, rooted in the science of how children learn to read, end quote. However, they're still in the evaluation and piloting phase rather than having made a complete commitment to systematic phonics instruction across all schools. These real-world examples demonstrate the concrete consequences when districts abandon proven phonics methods in favor of trendy alternatives. Here's the thing. I don't take a redneck to tell you this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the American government, especially in Democrat, not gonna lie, especially in Democrat-run cities and states, is if it's not broken, break it. And then break it some more. The appeal of abandoning phonics. Many reading programs are moving away from phonics because alternative approaches seem more natural and engaging. These programs emphasize whole language learning, balanced literacy, or guided reading methods that prioritize meaning making over systematic decoding instruction. The appeal is understandable. These approaches promise that children will learn to read through exposure to rich literature, context clues, and natural discovery processes. Teachers are told that phonics instruction is tedious and kills children's love of reading. Programs market themselves as more joyful, creative, and respectful of children's natural learning abilities. What natural learning abilities, the Gen Alpha? We've already gone over several articles that most people that go over that a lot of them have been exposed to this since they've been very young. Devices, personal experience. It's like as soon as kids are popped out of the womb, the parents just put a freaking iPad or an iPhone in front of them. The marketing messages are powerful. Who wouldn't want reading instruction that feels more natural and enjoyable? The problem is that these approaches ignore fundamental realities about how children actually learn to read. I'll be right back. I just hope that was a firework. All right, I'm back. Reading programs are abandoning phonics, ignore decades of brain research about literacy development. The human brain doesn't naturally connect written symbols to spoken language without explicit instruction. When children receive systematic phonics instruction, their brains develop neural pathways necessary for automatic word recognition. This process doesn't happen through exposure alone. It requires direct teaching of letter-sound relationships. Programs that abandon phonics often rely on methods that ask children to guess at words using pictures and context clues. While this may work for simple text with familiar vocabulary, it fails when children encounter complex, unfamiliar words that require, actual decoding skills. The alphabetic principle, understanding that letters represent sounds in systematic ways, forms the foundation of reading in English. Programs that skip this foundation leave children without the tools they need for reading independence. And then there's like what parents can do right now. Phonics is the foundation for reading. Reading programs that abandon phonics are making a costly mistake that hurts the children they claim to help, as well as the No Child Left Behind Act. Programs that abandon this foundation are abandoning the responsibility to provide effective literacy education. Now, keep in mind, again, this is from phonics.org, so obviously they're going to make it seem like, oh, this is, our way or the highway. But I really am curious about the units of study curriculum, so we're going to pull that up. I'm going to pull it up. Oh, okay, it's just a blog. Okay. I was hoping it would link me to an actual article. New York City abandoned the units of study. Okay, there is an article. Good. This is by CBS News. So we are going to take a look at that, and I'm probably going to be here for another 2 more hours because this is very interesting. I didn't know the rabbit hole went this deep. When I made this live stream, I was not expecting it to be almost 3-hour long endeavor on one topic. It goes to show. Just wow. Guys, actually, I might have to make a part 2 for this because this is way more than I had ever bargained for. I was not expecting this, honestly, when I just made this on a freaking whim and after watching a video this morning, recovering from a hangover about and I just saw on my algorithm, I'm just like, oh, this is curious. Let's see what this is all about. Because I already knew they were kind of dumb. I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot worse than I possibly thought. Because in the next 15, 20 years, these are going to be your doctors. These are going to be your lawyers. These are going to be your teachers. These kids who can't even spell their name, don't even know how to read, barely know how to write. You know, it's going to be like that scene from Idiocracy where the guy walks into the hospital. And all of you, just go look that scene up real quick on YouTube. I won't be upset if you leave. If you like live stream, I've only got one person right now. Go take a look at that scene and how that quote doctor talks to that guy and how everything is. And watch that video by Misha about Gen Alpha that I had mentioned, Misha Petrov, earlier. Come back here, and because this live stream will still be up on various platforms. But yeah, I think that might be it for today. This is definitely a very, very interesting topic. I've pretty much covered just about everything that, well, almost everything I wanted to, but I'm getting a massive headache again from the halogen bulb with the lamp in the background. And thank you all for showing up. This is going to have to be something I will need to continue covering and do more research for in the future. And I might make the part 2 to this Sunday, or I might even do it Memorial Day. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching and attending my first stream as the Feral Cat Wrangler. Remember, information is the art of war. Until then, next time, see ya!
32 Robert. Wake up threatening suicide at 3510 on Pine Grove. 3510 Pine Grove. Permit 516 on the 5. Matthew's calling saying his ex-girlfriend grabbed a knife and threatened to kill her.
Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want more, go ahead and like, subscribe. In various parts of the video, we've got our QR code. Go ahead and take that thing. It'll save you a lot of trouble.